Hello, Blitz fans of all ages, it's me, PlumCastle here, going over the Titan T24 57, and so with that, let's jump right in. So, as me and USA as one move into position here, let me show you the equipment I'm running, and as well, the provisions I'm running as well. Now, these things here will slightly change the statistics that I'm about to tell you. They will be fairly similar, however, do note that I have this slight edge because I do run these. I would highly recommend that you run these too because it does give that slight edge. However, it's all user preference when it comes to these, so do note that there may be some variability to the stats that I'm about to give you. So first, it has 954 hit points for me anyway. It does have a nice damage per minute. I mean, it's not great, but for this kind of tank, it's actually okay. It has 1,412 damage per minute for me. Now, you'll notice probably already on the screen that it is a clipper tank, or i.e., it has 3 shells that it takes 15.39 seconds to load, which it will then spit out those shells in 5 seconds. Now, I'll explain those stats in just a second, but that's a general idea so far. You reload your clip as you're hiding behind a rock, you poke out through the rock, and then you take your shots. Now, like I said, it has a 2.5 second shell interclip, so it is going to take you about 5 seconds just sitting out in the open to get those shots out. So it is definitely a higher skill vehicle. I would not recommend for somebody who has any less than 5,000 battles, and even so, if you've had 5,000 battles but they're all in heavy tanks, would still probably not suggest this until you've played some of the harder tanks, because it's not easy. I know I make it look slightly easy here, but it is not. You really need to know your stuff, and it's taken me thousands and thousands of battles of experience to gain the knowledge required to play these kinds of tanks. Now, it's not immensely hard, but of all the tank classes, specifically the types of tanks, the Clipper light tanks are often the hardest and most difficult tanks to play, so do keep that in mind when trying to figure out how to run this tank. Do note that if you have bought it already and you're struggling, it may just take some time to get used to it. So now let's go on to more of the stats. It has 160 alpha for the AP rounds. It has 135 damage for the APCR and 175 for the HE. Now, because of the nature of this tank, the alpha just coming out of here, you know it's not going to be immense, but you can expect at least a little bit of penetration. On the HE, it's only 42, but again, that makes sense. It's a small gun. However, on the APCR, it's 212, and on the AP, it's 151. Now, with 151, especially since you're mostly going to be running into lighter tanks, you should have no problem cutting into those. It'll be the heavies and higher tier that you'll probably need to pull out those APCR rounds. And as for the HE, I honestly have no clue when you'll ever be able to use these. I have hardly any loaded here, but I mean, at least it's there. Now, in terms of speed, you've got 55 forward, and as well, you also have 20 backwards. Now, you can go a little bit faster in both directions if you have the speed boost consumable, like I do. You can see there on the right, but that's not mandatory. I just tend to put that in there because you can't have adrenaline on these tanks, and that's also why I put the penetration equipment on instead of the reload, because the reload only gave you like a whopping 20 something damage per minute. It was not worth it, so I got the penetration buff instead. So now let's actually talk about the gameplay here, because you can see I'm platooning with USA as one as well in this replay, and this is how you want to be playing it. You want to be playing it very peekaboo style. You want to just come out, dump a ton of shells. You probably don't want to get hit by a KV2 like I did, but even so, you can see we're trading shots. USA will get some shots off, I'll get some shots off. We'll sometimes get them off at the same time, and you can see you can really just start to bleed out the enemy team, because while it does take about 15 seconds to reload your clip, that's not a long time to be hiding behind a rock, and when you do finally poke out, you can just absolutely devastate everyone and everything in front of you, provided you can penetrate. If it's a super high tier tank like a Tiger, you might have a hard time, but it is what it is. Now, that, I will be honest, that was lucky. I think he went into my track, but that will not happen very often. But it does have spaced armor on there, as you can see. But I do want to mention that this is only going to help with a very, very few bounces. I would say it probably bounces more shots than the AMX-12T, the tech tree-ish version. But it's minimal. It basically takes it from never bouncing to bouncing almost never. You cannot expect any bounces. It just occasionally you'll get a super lucky bounce from some low penetrating tank. So do keep that in mind. So I'm going over here for the ram kill because why not? I've got enough HP and it's kind of funny. Was actually hoping not to ram him and shoot him, but hey, I'll take it. It was funny and I didn't die. That's really what you want to be happening. Now let's move on to a replay that's honestly does not show my better skill, because I wanted to still show this because this is probably what most people are going to experience when playing the tank, and I want to really explain how to avoid this and to help people understand how the tank should work, because it's not easy, like I said. Now, as we move into position here, I want to say really nice PBR texture files. I did mention in my review of the Battle Pass overall that it did not have PBR textures. I had forgotten to change the graphics setting. It does have PBR, as you can clearly see there, and I think it looks really nice. So now this part so far, I've not really done anything rash or hasty. This is exactly the kind of thing you want to be doing. Just sitting there, waiting for your shots. You really don't want to overextend because everyone will focus you. But so far, so good. I'm just hiding behind my nice little bush. USA is getting those spots. He does dunk over a little bit. I was actually kind of surprised that he did that, but that gave me a little bit too much confidence, and then I started to just rush because I assumed no one else was over here, and that was a huge mistake. You can see there I did a terrible trade there, lost most of my HP, and now I'm really not doing well, and I've done hardly any damage, and I am basically worthless now. I can't do anything in the way of helping my team other than camping and sitting in the back. Now, I'm actually going to die, quick spoiler, but I wanted to show this replay partly because of this is how you should not play the tank, and partly because USA is going to do a very good and solid job here. Now, I've got myself into a real pickle now. There was a camping MT25 back there, and I've lost basically everything. I do go for that one shot there. Probably should have shot the AMX instead. However, I had made the shot, and it happened, so I died. But now let's take a quick look at USA is 1. Because he, on the other hand, other than me, I did terrible. He did amazing here. He used the tank exactly the way you should use it. You can see here he's hiding behind the rock when he needs to reload. You can see he has lost a few hit points there because he was a little bit overexposed earlier in the beginning, but you can see he's totally making up for that by not making any more strong pushes. He's there as a support tank. That's kind of what these things are for. They're in platoon, you really want to just devastate and bleed out the enemies and peekaboom them to death. However, when you are solo, it's a lot harder, but you can still do it for sure. Now, I do apologize because I can't see the zoom. This is my replay still, but you can still get the general idea of how he played this. So again, as you can see, he's playing this as a support tank, and like I was saying, when platooning, I would say it's a good tank for support, yes, but also you can be a little bit more bold with it, and you can be a little bit more aggressive, however, because you have that backup teammate. However, when you are alone or you're not platooning with another one of these tanks specifically, don't push too much. Do what USA is doing and be the support tank. Just get the shots when you need to, or rather when you can, and when nobody is looking at you. That was the mistake I made. I rushed when everyone was looking at me. Don't do that. That'll cause you so much grief. Only do what you see USA doing here if you are alone. Just chill. I mean, you don't have the longest reload ever. You can sit behind a rock. Usually no one will push on you, and you can get these shots off when they are. Now, we did get a little bit lucky here with the AFK, but still, nonetheless, this is a very valid point of staying behind the rock and being a support tank when you're only one of these things. Now, okay, again, when you're platooning, you can possibly take a little bit more of a hasty approach or a little bit more of a rushy approach where you can both kind of poke a little bit prematurely, but would not recommend it. However, it's not terrible, but it does work. But definitely try to conserve your hit points and be the support tank. Now, unfortunately, USA does die there, but he did his job. He did very well at it. He was going to the very end, trying to help make it as easy for our team, and we do end up getting the win because of it. Now, I'm going to skip that because that's boring. You already know that we win. And there you go. I did terrible, but USA did amazing, and I really feel this shows both the good and the bad of the tank itself, especially when not platooning, because most of these were with me platooning with USA, and I just wanted to touch up a little bit on the fact on how to play this when not platooning, because that is honestly a little bit harder. And so with that, I hope y'all enjoyed, and as always, have fun, good luck, and happy tanking.